Good evening, all. This is Dustin, also known as Rope Aficionado. This is the Dominance Dialogues. Tonight we have Sir Dragon Z, and our discussion topic is going to be Power Trip, exploring the highs and hazards of authority. Sir Dragon Z, would you mind introducing yourself and giving us a little bit about your experience, please?
Greetings. Hello, Dustin. Thank you for having me on. Very much appreciate that. And hello to everyone out there on podcast land. This is my very first podcast. I'm out here on the west coast of Canada, on Vancouver Island, as far west as you can get, so a little bit northeast of Seattle. And I've been in the lifestyle for a little over 20 years. I did not know that I was actually practicing BDSM activities in my early 20s when I was restraining people, when I was handcuffing them, when I was blindfolding them, when I was creating strobe light effects and music to make my scenes better. I was doing this stuff at 20 and I didn't even know what I was doing other than I was creating an environment that was more sexually stimulating and pleasing. It wasn't actually until I was about 40, I'm 64 today, and it wasn't until I was about 40 that I came to understand why people were scared of me, why I struggled with either people hating or loving me instantly. And it wasn't until I found BDSM and a lovely individual by the name of Mistress Marlene, who helped me to understand my dominance and how the energy that I have, the exuberance that I have, was just overpowering for a lot of people. And it led them to be fearful. It led them to be scared to even talk to me because it was just so much. And I had no idea. I'm smiling, I'm talking, I'm friendly, I'm sociable, yet I'm having trouble, connecting with some people. And so in those early days, I learned more about myself. Mistress Marlene was a big help in that. I was very much involved with the local scene here in Victoria, where I moved to in 2008. And immediately I was going to a lot of events. Every year since then, I've gone to at least 3 to 5 events and traveled to learn and to better understand the lifestyle. It wasn't until about 2012 when I went to Phoenix, Arizona. I think it was Northwest Leather. I can't remember exactly, but it was Phoenix, Arizona, 2012, where I found out about the leather lifestyle more in depth, and about woo. I'm like, what the hell is woo? And the spiritual connection with the BDSM lifestyle. And I'm like, well, I got a little bit of that, but I'm more action. I'm more hands-on. And that's what I have found myself to be, is someone that's hands-on, that is very much into impact play, into whips, connecting with my partners in a much deeper and intense, both emotional and sexual way than most people do. And COVID took a hit out of all of us, that's for sure. And since then, it's been a bit of a rough start to get back into the scene with the big events and whatnot. We were just at Kink Fest with my lovely partner, Island Moon, a month and a half ago there, and we had a fabulous time down there. Oh my God, that is such an event on the West Coast here, the largest dungeon in the world at 54,000 square feet. It's amazing. But it was in 2012 when I learned about leather, and I found that the leather lifestyle is what I believed in and where I fit with honesty, integrity, loyalty, giving back to the community, just being a well-rounded person, but standing behind what you say and what you do. And when you make a mistake, you own up to it, you deal with it, and you move on.
All right, so I'm going to hit you with a new question because I got one just from your introduction. You said that at first you kind of struggled to establish some relationships, that either people loved you or hated you, I believe was your words. And then when you became familiar with Mistress, I don't recall her name.
Marlene.
Marlene.
Marlene, yeah.
Okay. She helped you understand a little bit more about yourself. What was it that you figured out about yourself through her guidance?
I think it was just like her knowledge and experience within the lifestyle to see beneath the surface of who I was. And she was just able to see that I have all this energy and how that energy is intimidating for a lot of people. I may not be aware or directly trying to be assertive, aggressive, or dominant, but yet because I walk tall, I stand tall, I want to look my best, I want to be my best as best I can. I want to be a good example to others for the lifestyle. And she just was able to point this stuff out so that I had a better understanding. It was just like it's a epiphany, I guess you could call it, not a word I use very often, that it was like, this is probably why you're struggling. I challenge authority. I have no problem challenging authority. I don't like the answer I'm hearing. Why? How come? And people don't like that. They don't like someone who sounds like they might be smart, sounds like they might have some knowledge, sounds like they can handle themselves and will put you in your place. And so it really was challenging for me in my 20s because I was into kickboxing when I was younger, and I was a Pacific Northwest light heavyweight champion. And my friends, I found out years later, were scared to talk to me about some stuff because they felt that I was going to beat them up if I didn't like what they said. And I'm like, that's not me. How are you getting this persona of me? So having this insight from Mistress Marlene helped me to better understand what is coming out at people. One of my partners at about that time was also a healer and someone that read people's energy and stuff like that. And I remember she had the sticks, whatever that they use for measuring energy. And we went out my hallway in the condo here, and she went to the farthest end. She used the sticks and she says, "You're all the way 100 feet down the hallway here. Your energy is holy shit." And I went, what? Like, again, I had no idea that this much stuff is coming out of me. And it's just, you can't learn this. You can't train this. You either have it or you don't, I believe. And that's a lot of the stuff when it comes to dominant or submissive or slave or submissive, that it's hard to teach someone to be a slave that's not naturally a slave. I think it's hard to teach someone to be a master or a dominant that doesn't have that instinctive drive, doesn't have that instinctive thinking ahead to the next plan and to the next plan to try and make things happen. It's hard to teach that. You can teach the fundamentals, but if you don't have the instincts to follow through with things, it's a facade.
I got a few things based off of what you just said. One of the biggest things, in my words, I think what you're getting at right here is it's about character, not experience. Experience can be gained, but
Yes.
if you have the character to be a dominant or a master, if you have the character to be a slave or a submissive, then you can gain that experience. But I don't think this is one of those situations where you can fake it till you make it necessarily. You will grow in confidence as you grow as a dominant, but like I said, like you kind of said, you sort of have it or you sort of don't. And I think a big part of character for either side of the slash is growth mindset, in my opinion. At least from my perspective, a lot of the D types or S types, M types, whatever you want to call all of the umbrella of BDSM, it seems that a big core of the people that are doing this more than on the weekend have that growth mindset. And some of the other words that you hit on: integrity, honesty, accountability, right? These aren't words that we just all throw around. Some of us actually mean them.
We live it. We live it. And I try, that's all I can say, is I try my best every day to work toward those goals. I don't succeed every day, but I try to succeed at those goals. And I think, as you say, the character is so important to have that inner strength, that inner desire to follow a certain path. it also goes along with intent, especially on the dominant side. It's really important to know that your intent is pure. And what I mean by pure is it's pure that it's to work with your partner, with whoever it is that you're, I hate the word playing, scening with, whoever you're scening with. And that your intent is to come out at the end of the day, at the end of the night, with both of you being satisfied, pleasured, enjoyment, exhausted, and just having an experience that is memorable. And I think a lot of people just see BDSM as hitting and whacking, and I see a lot of that out there. And it's disappointing. And then they'll see a scene that I'll do, and we'll go, "Oh my God, you guys are so connected. You guys are so into each other." It's like, well, yeah, because I don't. So I have a saying: the 3 H's. I don't like using the words hit, hurt, or harm. So I call those the 3 H's. Now this is personal. There's other people that like those words, and all the bonus to them to share with your partner. You like them, and go down that road. I don't like them because I believe that those are negativities. Those are negative words to use in the BDSM world, because any sexual abuse person or domestic abuse person sees a nurse or a doctor or a cop. What's the first thing they say? Did they hurt you? Did they hit you? Did they, I was hit, hurt, harm. Did they harm you? So these words are used in a negative way to, work against somebody. And I don't like that for that reason. So I go, so that's a protocol I set up. I'm not doing those 3 words as best. They come out every now and then, but I work toward not allowing those words to come out because I don't believe in those words. And I think it's important. I remember reading somewhere, it could have been Dr. Bob, Robert Rubel, I'm not sure, but where words matter. The words that we use have substance and they have meaning, and they can hurt someone and or they can build somebody. And it's important that we use the right words so that people understand actually who we are. I think the trouble is not everybody likes hearing truthful words or hard stories. And then they run away.
So this goes back to one of the things I wanted to say earlier off of just some of your previous statements. A person that I speak with on my Facebook page, they made a comment along the lines of, if someone's looking for a weak cup of tea, they're looking in the wrong place if they're on your page, because you're a strong cup of coffee.
Mm-mm.
And I really like that, right? And I'm very open that I'm a strong cup of coffee. And you talk about one of your earlier partners and how they felt that energy off of you, 100 and some foot away from you inside of the condo. And this is something I've talked about and kind of wondered. I've always had this force. To some level, it's been magnetism. Either you're really attracted to me or you're just repulsed by me, period.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot of reflection to kind of understand it. And this is, I know I'm a force to be reckoned with. And this is, for me and my flavor of authority, it's important for me to install my person with their voice, because if they don't have a voice, I will run right over them without intention. It's
Mhm.
just, I'll just keep moving. I'll keep moving. I'll keep moving. And if I don't have someone that says, "Hey, sir, hey, Dustin, do you realize there's a cliff right there?" You know? And so and I pretty much instill that your voice is a service to me. And what I do with that information is my choice, right?
Correct. And that's the thing that I think something that's out there that people forget about is that you can go to your community munches and you can go to your community events and feel empowered that you're learning and that your community is going to protect you and they're going to protect you. I can't protect you. If you go out and make stupid choices and you go, excuse my language, some of it's going to be raw, some of it's going to be direct. If you go out and make bad choices, if you make bad choices that's on you. And you have to, accept that, and you have to learn from it, and we'll help you to learn from it. We'll help you to grow from it. But I can't protect you when you're in the bar drinking and you're making a bad choice with who you go home with at the end of the night. And then you complain that they were a bad lay. And I'm just going to just leave it there, It's like, well, you made a bad choice. Learn from it. He was drunk. He was an idiot. He was obnoxious. He was an idiot,
Well, and I think that kind of leads us into the conversation, right? Intoxication.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we think of intoxications as outside substances that are entering our body that are creating mind altering effects. But there's starting to be data, specifically, if you're familiar, there's a person by the name of Neuromancer I interviewed a few months ago at some of the best classes I've ever been to. He actually has brain scans of people in subspace and can show definitive proof of what happens to people, and it aligns with intoxication, right? It may not be the one-to-one intoxication as using an illicit drug, but it is definitely a mind altered state. And most often we talk about subspace, but tonight we're here to talk more about dom space or top space. So, my first actual question for you this evening is, what is the psychological phenomena known as dom space or top space, and how does it manifest in individuals?
So this sounds like a science question, and that would be better put toward my submissive partner, who's a science nerd. So we're very different in those respects. From my own personal opinion and personal view and personal knowledge and experience, and what I've learned over the years is that when we get into the scening that we do, I find that it takes about 20 to 30 minutes of warm up to have my partners get into a gentle stage of, let's call it submission, or a zone where they're able to now handle a little bit more. There's at least 20, 30 minutes that I know that there's a warm up that needs to happen. But that also is a warm up for me. That warm up is also for me to feel comfortable, for me to get in touch with my partner, for me to connect with that partner. And I don't mean connect with my toys. I mean connecting with my voice. I mean connecting with my touch and with my actions. And my actions have to be in tune with what I'm saying and what I'm doing. When you're doing an action that's not in tune with what you're saying, they're going to feel that and they're going to go out of space. But when it comes back to ourselves, that warm-up space is about getting the adrenaline, the hormones, what's the other word I'm looking for here? Energy. Your energy to start building up and everything to release chemically in your mind. And once the pain stimuli and whatnot, once that starts, that's the drug. And that's the drug that we have to be careful of, because it is so easy to allow it to overtake us. When I'm doing a scene, I not only have to protect my partner from what I'm doing to her, I have to protect her from myself. And what I mean by that is that I get high, but you don't feel it because it comes on so gradually, because I'm focused. When I'm doing my scenes, people have seen my eyes and things, and they've said that you are just so focused, you're so intent that it just takes me to another place. And I know from my past history that when I was fighting, I had many knockouts in my fights. I do not remember one of them when I hit the guy. I blacked out every time before I hit him, and I woke up and he was on the ground and I was saying sorry. There was a space there of 3 to 4 seconds. I don't remember a damn thing because of the energy and the amount that was happening at that time. This is controlled, so it's different. But it's like you can take 10 people and you're feeding them all tequila. I like to use alcohol and some analogies to make people understand some things, and hopefully it does tonight. And you can have 10 different people doing shots of tequila. And after 2 or 3, you can start to see who it's hitting hard, who it's not affecting at all. And then the other stuff starts to happen. Who's the ones that are mellowing out and slowing down? Who are the ones that are ramping up and getting wild or getting angry? Everybody is different. And this is why we can't do a blanket statement and say, when you do A, B, C, D is going to happen, and you're going to end up with X, Y, Z at the end of the day at that scene. Everybody's different. We have to learn about who we are individually as dominants and as masters. And we have to play scene and act within what is reasonable for what we can do and what we are going to be held responsible for. The sad thing is, like I said, is that it's a drug. When that adrenaline starts to flow and those oxytocins and the other stimuli start to happen, endorphins start to happen, that's a natural drug that your body likes. And it makes to save you from flight or fight, And in this term, it's in this realm here, it's helping you to deal with what you're experiencing here. And so you're feeding, as a dominant, you're feeding yourself unexpectedly this drug. And I've got to manage that drug that's feeding me. At the same time, I'm being aware of what my partner is going through, what he or she is feeling, and where they're at. So it's a double awareness here that has to happen. And I think a lot of times where other dominants, male or female, run into trouble is that drug overtakes their sense of reality of where they're at, of what was consented to, of what was actually on the table to do. And next thing you know, I'm on a high and I'm just going. And this is what I have found, and I've now learned to pull back a little bit, is that I will just all of a sudden ramp it up, and I'll ramp it up, and I'll ramp it up. And I do take breaks in between where I'm interacting with my partner, between toys and between hands and between vocals and stuff like this. But see, right there, I just took a nice deep breath. And that's what I need to do every now and then to bring it back down. To bring it down, I'm in control, and I stay in control. And I ride that high. I can feed that high, but I need to make sure that I stay present. I'm asking my partner to be present. I'm asking her to forget about work and forget about everything else that's happened today. And I want to take them into another zone. So I'm asking them to be present. Who's asking the dominant to be present? All that they're asking us to do is do action. Give me. Hit me. Hurt. Don't like those words. Give me. I want more. So that's what we do. But we're not managing that high that we're inadvertently giving ourselves. And it happens. Now, again, not everybody is able to recognize it and handle it. And this is where troubles happen.
So what do you personally do to help manage that high and to maintain some level of control of yourself?
That's a hard question, because every person you scene with and play with is going to feed you differently a little bit. Now, they're going to feed the high, but they're going to feed you a little bit. The best thing that I can do, I believe, is to have like mini breaks where I don't just keep whipping, or I don't keep flogging, and I don't keep that run going. I take a break, but the break isn't just for my partner to help them with what they're absorbing and what they're I hate the word enduring, what they're processing, but it's about me also allowing things to, where am I at right now? What's going on? So as I'm checking in on her, again, I've got to do a double take and go, how am I doing right now? How is my breathing right now? What was my intent when I started this? So I've got to get a little deeper into my head that it's not just about the action that I'm doing, but am I still on par for the consent and the outcome that we're looking for here, am I still on the same page here? And so by having a break, by coming into my partner, holding them, touching them, caressing them, that also settles me down. It also helps me as I'm settling them down, it settles me down. For example, my partner now, the first night that we seen together was the first night she'd ever been in a dungeon. She'd only been on FetLife 2 weeks. Brand new person, totally. I was able to convince her that I could help her go to her first party and I could be her escort and I could share with her my knowledge, and that if she was up for a tasting, I'd have my toy bag, we could do a tasting. Long story short, we get up on stage later because she felt comfortable, we do a tasting. As I ramp her up, she gets to a point where she starts to cry. And I'm like, holy shit, I hope I haven't broken her. So I go in and console her, and I'm touching her, and I'm touching her hair, and I'm supporting her, and I'm praising her, and I'm telling her, it's okay. I want you to cry. Let it out. Let that stuff out. Whatever that shit is, whatever that ugly is, whatever it is, just let it go. She did that. Now that helped me also to ground and bring me back into space too. She then passed it, woke up and said, and I saw that she woke back up again and was fully cognizant. And I said, are you ready to go again? She goes, can we? So we did. We did 3 rounds of building up, crying, building up, crying. And this was her first time in a dungeon. I stopped and went, I'm bailing now before I break this person. But another person might have not done that. They might have just rode that high and go, I'm just going to take more. I'm going to take more, give more. And we have to manage ourselves, and it's really hard when you're feeding yourself a drug that you can't see. You're not, if I have a drink, I know I've had 5 drinks. Okay, that's too many. 1's too many for my BDSM. 2 or 3, 1 or 2 for sex, okay. But 1 for BDSM, that's it. That's a max for me. But you see that and you know that you have something to gauge it. But when you're doing a scene with somebody and it now has gone into hour 1, hour 2, maybe even a little longer, you have nothing to measure of a general sense of what you've taken in. So how do I know how to measure that? I don't know, other than I'm riding this high and I'm sexy and I'm having sex. I love the word that you're a sexual sadist. I freaking love that. And my BDSM is sex. When I see someone suffering, I'm hard. When I'm hard, I want to fuck. And that's all there is to it. It's just, I want to fuck. And so, that's why my partner and I get along. She likes to get fucked, and I love to fuck. And so we have a great relationship, and we have good communication. Anyway, it's really hard to manage your high when you don't have something to judge it by in front of you. I've drank a 26er. And you're drunk, and that's the reason I'm drunk. But when you're doing a scene, you don't have that visual to help you say, well, what's going on here, where I might be at. And so it's a lot of self-awareness. And I think this is something that isn't being taught at events, isn't being taught at, I'll say munches for lack of a better word. I run here in Victoria a power exchange group, the West Shore Community Power Exchange Group. And we have discussions. We have a social for hour at 7 o'clock, a discussion. We have a topic of some sort, and only one person speaks at a time. You leave your drama and your egos at the fucking door, and everybody's equal. Everybody's neutral. Everybody's on the same page here. There's no top, bottom, master, dominant, sub, nothing. Everybody's level here. What happens here stays here. It's Vegas. And you don't go on FetLife and blurb about what we've just done. But we have discussions where people are sharing their stories, not what I heard, not I heard this about this person. No. Dustin, you tell me what your experience is with this. What was your experience? And people add this, add that. We have people that are brand new, and we've got people that have been around 15, 20 years. and we all feed into a discussion. It's all orderly, where people put their hand up, their name gets taken down, and then in succession, each person gets the floor for 2 or 3 minutes to share their viewpoints. And we try not to ask too many questions of the person themselves because we don't want to badger them with questions. But at the same time, we have a discussion to find out about a topic and to learn from other people's missteps, their pros, their cons. Where did that subject take you, and how did you feel from that? And anyway, that's something I lead because I feel very passionate that we need to teach more, not about toys and how to use toys. There's enough of that out there, but we need to have the mindset of taking care of ourselves. We need to have the mindset of what is our intent, what is our objective, where are you going with this? What do you want from it? Do you know what you have to give? If you don't know what you have to give, how do you know who can give you what you need? That got a little off topic with the Dom space.
I mean, that last statement, that's gold right there, right? And it makes me think of
which ones? I don't remember.
if you don't have what you need, how can you give it? Like and it makes me think of a statement Slave Caroline made, was that if submission's a gift, how can you give it if you don't have it?
Well, if you don't know what it is, if you don't know what you have or what you want or what you need, like being a sexual sadist, I have a good understanding now, 20 years in, I have a good understanding now what feeds me and what I need. A lot of people don't. They're still exploring, and they don't realize that they're still exploring, and they're looking for something from somebody, but that's not the right person because they haven't done the homework to figure out what it is they need. What are the 5 top things that you need from someone? And this is why, well, I'm going to get back on topic here. I do pickup play, and it's dangerous. I'm not going to fucking lie. When I look at it in the realities of it, it can be very dangerous because you don't know enough sometimes about a person beforehand. And I go to events and I run into people, I meet people, we socialize, the energy's there, the conversation's there. Tell me 5 things that you like. Tell me 5 things that you absolutely don't like. And it's not piss or scat or cutting a limb off, or those aren't even on the table. It's just like, let's do the reality check here. Give me 5 you like, 5 you don't like. Okay, I've got my lines. I just got to stay within those lines now. That's it. And as long as I stay within those lines, I'm gold. Now, do I push those lines? Fuck yeah, if the partner I'm with is able to go there. But I have to be able to, and I have to be smart enough to look at what's in front of me. What is the picture I'm painting and what is developing? And if it's not going toward a high, if it's not absorbing and processing pain and discomfort, and I like to say sensations, extreme sensations. The reason I say extreme sensations is the moment you say pain, 95% of the people walk away from you because they will think of something tragically painful, and that's what they think about, and you're not doing that to me. So I say sensations. I'm going to do sensations that are pleasurable, that are enjoyable, that are fun, that are playful, and some that are going to test you right to the very end. I'm going to hold you up, not at the cliff, but I'm going to put you right over that cliff looking at the ground and just let you sit there. And then I'll pull you back and we'll start again after I calm you down. And if I don't see that happening, I shut her down. I walk away, I shut it down. That's a whole nother thing that we've talked about, I think, where the doms are allowed to stop. I'm allowed to stop if I don't feel comfortable. I'm allowed to say, no, this is not for me. This is not where I want to go. I'm not comfortable. But for some reason out there, we're not allowed to say that. We're bad people if we do that because I want my sub drop. I want my scene.
Now, that goes back to like the simple statement of fantasy versus reality, right? And I think that a lot of the fantasy is portrayed by social media,
Oh, yeah.
Netflix now. I mean, all the smut that's out there. We don't even have to blame 50 Shades anymore because there's so much stuff that's so much worse, right? That
50
generally
Shades
represent.
wasn't even BDSM. Sorry. 50 Shades was a romance that had a sprinkling of
Yeah,
flavor, and he whacked her a couple of times, and she hated it. Oh, there was one scene. I'll give you one scene. Book 2. No, not in the movie. In book 2. Do you remember when the ex-girlfriend came
I didn't read the
and?
book. I didn't watch
Oh,
the movies
you
either. Nah, I don't need to. But
okay.
so, but something I want to go back to, like you brought up, and it was brought up in the chat a few times, was like that touch and that connection. And something that's been very important for me is that touch and connection throttles me. It brings me back, right?
What are you back to what?
To being a human
Oh,
and not
okay.
being a
Oh,
monster,
sure. Oh,
right?
okay.
And it's
Okay.
very important for me specifically, and I'm very communicative with people that I engage with, that if I play in the darker realm, so to say, even Impact, I have horrible drop from Impact. Horrible drop because I try very hard to be a good human, and I still to this day, at this point it's 15, almost 20 years being in the scene, I still carry shame that I like to watch pretty humans cry. I still carry shame that I like to watch people suffer. And for me, it's really important after that scene for me and that person to connect as humans, as Dustin and my made up Susie is the name I always use. To remember that I am still a human, to remind them that they're still a human. Um, I'm it's to the point where it's something that I'm so hesitant to even play with Impact because of that drop, that negative emotions that I feel afterwards. I fucking love it. I do, but as I've
Love the
gotten
high.
older and
You
yeah,
love the high, not the drop. Has
but
anybody taught you how to deal with the drop?
so the best thing for me to mitigate it is to maintain that connection with a person, right? To communicate with them. Um, that mostly the big thing that they wanted it, they were enthusiastic, that I'm not a bad person, they don't look at me different. That's the biggest thing for me personally. As long as I can, and sometimes it doesn't take much. Just a little bit of maybe the word to attach here is reassurance, right? Or reconfirmation of consent, right?
Let me give you something else, if
Sure.
I may, please, and for others too, is processing a scene first and foremost, processing the pain or discomforts, challenges. It's important, I believe, to pull it in, acknowledge it, breathe it in, acknowledge it, and then push it out. So you feel it, you acknowledge it, you hold it, you let it go. Don't hang on to it. A lot of people do what I call enduring, and I hate the word because what they do is they're taking it and they're taking it and they're taking it. Now, again, is the dominant doing the good job of leveling this stuff so that it plateaus and then it plateaus so that there's steps? But if you just keep going like this and you're enduring, and you're putting it in, you're pulling it in, you're pulling it in, at some point you're going to hit a high, and there's going to be so much of this pent up negative energy in you that you're fighting and fighting to deal with because you haven't processed it. You're going to crash. And this is in the scene. I'm talking in the scene. I'm coming to the other part in a second. This is in the scene. It just goes up. And when you come off that end there, I can't save you. As your dominant, I cannot save you. That crash is going to happen. It's done, and the scene's done because you've allowed yourself of not processing the feelings that were coming in, the sensations that were coming in, and acknowledging them. And so when you finally hit the top, you exploded. but you had nothing to save you, and so you fail. You crash hard. Now, when it comes to sub drop or dom drop or con drop, that one hits you, man, because it's just 4 days of going at it and stuff. What I have found is, of course, the simple things, the food, the Gatorade, the nutrients, the water, feed, those are the basics. Great. But what I find that a lot of people forget about is acknowledgement, acknowledging where this drop came from. This drop is, think of it as a hangover. This is my hangover. I was drinking Saturday night. I was partying in a dungeon Saturday night. Today, I'm feeling like shit because I overdid it Saturday night. And as soon as I find that I help people to acknowledge where your shitty feelings are coming from, now you're able to get out of that hole. Venus and Mars book their, women go into a well of emotions, men go into their caves and hide. It's like, and the women will bury themselves, I'm told, yeah, I'm not an expert, in these emotions. And they get in there and they acknowledge it and feel it. And then when they dealt with it, okay, I can get out of the hole now. And that's similarly, I think, the aspect here is that we need to acknowledge where this bad feeling is coming from, where this shitty feeling is, and how come I'm feeling this way? Well, as soon as we acknowledge that I'm feeling shitty because I drank this, oh, okay, that's what did it. I find that helps a lot of people to move forward. But you said something earlier there too, that you said a word that really popped out at me, and not good, was monster, that you feel like a monster. I'm like, whoa, dude, you do rope.
No, you have no idea. You have no idea.
What I see from my perspective with the rope around here is I see endless conversations. I see endless conversations, and I'm going, how the hell are you getting into a headspace of any sort when you're talking and talking and talking, and you're not allowing yourself to actually, I believe, get into the rope, into the sensation, into the feeling? It's just like when I do a scene, I ask my partners, I share with my partners that I don't want to have a conversation with you. I'm not here to talk about your work or your home life or blah, 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 blah. I'm here to create a scene. I'm here to get inside your fucking head. And I want to get in your head and push all that other stuff away so that all you're thinking about is right now, you're present, you're engaged, and you're fearful and worried of sorts of what I may or may not do next. Some of it's playful. And it's tickling and it's giggling and laughing. But at some point, there's this other shit that's going to happen that's not going to feel so good, and it's going to be a challenge, it's going to be a struggle. So I don't understand how rope people can get into this space of subspace when they have so much conversations going on. Now, granted, there are a few of you, and I've never seen you do a full-on scene, that get into it. But is there a conversation going on? I friggin' doubt it.
There's not. I mean, honestly, like, I can send you links, but if you watch me tie, like, I joke I'm like the Bob Ross of the Shibari world, and it's very much like dance for me. What's that?
I don't know who Bob Ross is, so whoosh.
The painter, the painter. And he'd like accidentally make a mistake on the board, and he'd be like, "Oh no, this is now a bird." And then he'd like smudge the paint over here, and he'd be like, "Oh, now this is a tree." Nonetheless, yeah, no, I agree that like it does seem that there is a lot of communication with rope, and I think a lot of it is simple because at least for me, I geek out on the science behind it. But when it comes to actually scening, do you want to go upside down? Do you want to go left, right? Do you want your hands in your front? Do you want your hands in your back? Okay, now shut up and be my canvas. And let me,
asking them. You should just be doing it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm leading you down this path. I'm in control. I'm leading you. You've already told me what you want. You've already told me that. I don't want them. This is what I don't like.
But the thing with like, especially like with the level of suspension that I do, it's very dynamic. So a lot of it, and your word was enduring. There is enduring in suspension.
I can see
And
that.
specifically, something people don't catch with suspension. One of the biggest things people have to endure is breath play. Depending on the position I put you in, it will restrict your breath quite significantly.
I can see that. Yeah.
The transitions help move and distribute the amount of suck and where it is, right? Nonetheless, I mean, we're kind of getting off topic, but
I was just thinking the same thing.
when it comes to rope, like with an experienced rope top, rope will really make you get that floating feeling. I mean, and it's not comparing or diminishing anything else out there, because I know a lot of things will get you floating feeling.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I've said it very openly and honestly. You can be a 320-pound linebacker for whatever sports team you pick. And if you're in my rope and you're 3 foot in the air, you're mine and I have control. End of story. Period.
Good.
Right. And there is a big shift in headspace, even for me. But see, for me though,
So why do you feel guilty? Why do you feel like you're a monster?
No. I don't feel. I have no guilt when it comes to that. Right? It's the evil. It's the desires of consensual abduction, interrogation, CNC, so on and so forth. Rope for me is cathartic. Rope for me is very therapeutic. Rope rarely is evil in my head. Can I do mean rope? Sure. I enjoy some mean rope, but I don't even remotely touch the headspace that I get from rough body play, from impact, like I said, from any kind of CNC or kidnapping type of scene. That is just a whole different Dustin completely.
So I've had a couple instances where, scenes haven't gone quite the way they're supposed to go. And for example, I had a partner who bought me this beautiful knife. I'll say like it was damn big, 14 inches or so, dragons or some kind of like Asian type of stuff all over it. And so we did a knife scene, and I had a couple over also watching and being a part of it in some way. I forget how exactly. Anyway, we got into the knife scene, and I got into now getting inside her head without that plan and to get inside her head, but it's just where the next level went to. And where I'm, this is a brand new knife. This is an instinct again. You can't plan this. It's like, this knife is really heavy. I'm not familiar with this knife. This knife is much sharper than I'm used to. I'm just coming up with shit out of my head that just seems believable, let's say, and I'm feeding her all of this stuff. And I'm just dragging it. I haven't cut her. I haven't made her bleed. I haven't done anything of that sort. But it got to a point where the words that I was using, the headspace that she got into, that she had to stop, she lost it. Like, she freaked out, she lost it. And once we calmed the situation down and dealt with it to a degree that she could articulate, she said, "Sir, I thought that you were going to cut my arm off." I was so deep into that that's all I could think about, that he's cutting my arm off. He's cutting my arm off. Oh my God, he's going to cut my arm off. And I wasn't anywhere near talking about doing that. But I led her to believe somehow that that's what got in her head. And it's like, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's not where my intent was. That wasn't my verbiage. I wasn't talking about cutting her arm off or a limb off or anything. I was just saying that I could do damage. I could, I don't know how to handle this knife. It's new, it's sharp, it's big, it's all these things. And so now you gotta take responsibility. If you're a good top, a good master, a good dominant, you now have to take responsibility, and you have to now do what you can to resolve that and fix that or mitigate that, and that gets lost sometimes too, with I think a lot of people, whether I won't say that they walk away completely, but they don't give the attention they should to someone who's had a possibly traumatic situation happen, and we can't blow that shit off. We need to make sure that we take care of the people that we play with and we scene with. They're holding us responsible. They're giving themselves to us, and they're hoping that we're going to give them back in one piece. And sometimes it's a little jaded, sometimes it's a little, roughed up, but they need to go back so that they can function again. And if we don't take care of that, then bad on us. And we need to take that responsibility on. And I think at times, there's many out there that just fail when it comes to taking on that responsibility fully. It's part of the game.
Oh, I agree. And I man, there's so many things we can get lost on here, but you hit on something that was just honestly kind of phenomenal, in my opinion. And that's not trying to boost your ego by no means. It's just you really did hit on a great point.
Can I use it? Can I use it just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. But when you brought up that it's like a hangover, and you are spot on. I don't know why I personally, and maybe this is my ego, like saying, why didn't I think of that? Like, why didn't I connect that simple dot? Like we constantly talk about intoxication, right? And dom space or top or subspace is intoxicating. I've never once heard somebody compare the drop associated with as a hangover. And that there's so many just thoughts firing in my head around that analogy, because it's very accurate, right? And I'm not a medical professional by no means, but like for instance, with a hangover, I know part of it is because of the sugars that is in alcohol.
Sure. Yeah.
Know all the details. I don't drink alcohol, or well, I very rarely drink alcohol. Nonetheless, like I got some research to do.
And this is what we should be doing when we have our discussions. The munches are great. Don't get me wrong. Munches are great to socialize, but I want to learn. And this is what I hate. I want to be nice. I was disappointed with my community and munches because kinky people were going to a vanilla site to talk about vanilla stuff. I came here to talk about BDSM stuff. Why is this such a hard thing to do? Why is it so difficult to talk about BDSM stuff with BDSM people in a vanilla setting? Like, it just doesn't happen. So I went, fuck it, I'll make my own group. And I made my own group, and this is what we do now. We have discussions so that just like this, someone can say something, and hopefully it'll help other people to go, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. Oh, wow, that's a good thing. I can avoid that, so I don't have the pitfalls of running into that type of a person or that type of a situation. And, we learn from others' mistakes, and hopefully they're positive things too. But you don't get that unless you put the effort into the discussions and into having meaningful interactions with people. Just socialize in public.
I mean, that's been a big driving force behind the podcast, and why I wanted to start it is, my cliche phrase is I want to be the catalyst to the conversations that I want to hear. It's humbling that I get to be part of them, but there seems to be just a lack of higher level discussion around BDSM and what we do. And that's not saying that this discussion's any better than any other discussion, just to be clear. No. There needs to be a lot of the 101 discussion, because there's a lot more 101 people that are being brought into the community. But it seems that there's limited space for these deeper level conversations. and even being in the scene for as long as I have, every podcast that I've had, I'm almost finished with a notebook, and I'm only on 20 episodes in.
Holy
Like,
cow.
I joke I should be the database dom. I've already have thousands of reels from 20 episodes. Like, I'll go ahead and throw myself under the bus. A lot of this, some of the motivator was selfish, was to grow and hear conversations that I just didn't hear anywhere else. And I was like, well, if nobody else is going to have these conversations, and let's see if I can start them. But enough of that. So you kind of touched on a few of the questions that I had, proposed questions.
Let's try. Go for it.
We won't go back to those. But I do want to go to this next question because it's kind of a good segue. So how do individuals in positions of power navigate the delicate balance between confidence and arrogance that often accompanies dominance?
That's tough. That is not an easy question, because there's such a fine line. There is such a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And at the same time, everyone's, I'll say, perception of confidence and arrogance is different. One person's idea of arrogance might be very low. The other person's might be very high before they accept someone as being arrogant. And so where is that middle ground that says, I'm not arrogant? Where's that middle ground that says, I'm confident? This is where I use sports as an analogy. If you don't have guys out there right now in the Stanley Cup playoffs that are cocky and that are on that edge, and sometimes they have to go over that edge and be arrogant. I'm going to throw a name out there to the Boston fans. Brad Marchand. I don't know if you know who that is, but I fucking hate that little shit. He's a shit disturber, but he's one of the best players in the NHL. He is one of the best players out there, and the skill level that he has. But at the same time, he's riding that fucking level of, I'm this, I can get away with this and do this and do this. And he does. And he's just a shithead. But anyway, how do you manage it? I think a part of it is in your presentation, how you present to others, how you talk about others, how you treat others. If it's all about you, me, well, is there really any room for anybody else? It's just all about you? Well, sorry, I think then we've got some arrogance happening here. I think we're kind of leaning over here. Being confident who you are is a good thing. I think we should be teaching that to more kids and to more people, so that they understand that it's okay to feel good that, I was able to accomplish this. I was able to succeed at this. I was able to finish this book. I read this book. Like, I accomplished this. Why is that? Oh, you're so arrogant about all the books you read. Well, you're already arrogant, I think, if you ram it down people's throat. If you're ramming shit down people's throat, okay, now we're going into another level here about it's me, and it's not about, who are we? How are you helping the community? How are you being a part in the community here of sorts? Arrogance is very one-dimensional, I think. I think it's very one-dimensional. I think it's very selfish. This is coming right off the top of my head. And I think when someone is confident, they're confident in their abilities, they're confident who they are, but they're also respectful. They're also very aware of who they're around and who else is involved, and they take people's feelings into account. An arrogant person doesn't, I don't believe. I think that they're so high on their fucking horse, they got that chip on their shoulder for whatever reason, that they don't have the ability to feel. And I think when you're confident, You're good with who you are, but you also feel what other people are feeling, and you show that kindness, and you show that responsibility to not overwhelm them with who you are and what you are. I know that I'm good at certain things. I know that I'm very good at sports, and I pick things up really well. When I first saw whips being used, or just whips in general, I always saw them as bad things because I thought of movies and stuff. And then I saw an event that I was at with Joe Wheeler in 2006 here in Victoria, and he put a class on with whips. And I was like, oh, it's whips, I don't know. All I could think about again was they hurt people. They're bad, because that's what I saw in movies. I didn't know anything else. The following year, John Ireland was up here in Victoria, and he was teaching a class. I had more interest. So I went to the class, and I saw very quickly how very few people could handle or make the whip do anything. And I saw right away, this is a skill. Oh my God, this is a skill. And there's very few people that I want to have this skill. And I just went AWOL on getting a whip right away, a good whip by Joe Wheeler. And I practiced and practiced and practiced. And in a very short period of time, I became better than the locals that have been doing it for years, because I put more effort into it. But at the same time, I realized that I had to back off. I realized that my skill level was better than theirs, but I had to go, nope, I can't throw that in their face. No, I can't. I'm going to do what I do on my scenes, but I'm not going to brag it up. I'm not going to do this. We have to have, what's the word I'm looking for here? A self-awareness of how we are presenting ourselves and not boasting too much. We can boast a little, but as soon as you go over that line of boasting too much, then the arrogance starts to get in there. You put other people down. I don't want to put people down. I want to bring people up. I want to work with people to help them learn what the skills are, learn the little tricks, how to crack a whip. I can show someone a bullwhip. In less than 5 minutes, I can make them crack that whip and have this energy flow through them that goes, my God, I did that. I felt that. I heard that. Holy cow. 5 minutes. There's this A, B, C, D. You do this, you do this. At this point in time, you need to do this. And I can make it happen. But at the same time, if I go around telling everybody I'm the best, and I'm the best, and I can do this, and I can do that, I'm just an arrogant little bastard that doesn't care about other people, and I'm just pushing my own views onto people. And I'm not about that. And I think that if someone has confidence, they don't need to brag about who they are. Others will do. I don't want to say brag about you, but others will share your skills and accomplishments and will praise you. You don't need to do the praising. They will do it for you.
It's funny you said that. So one of my notes that I took, I grew up in some kind of rough neighborhoods in South Chicago. And I always go back to this analogy. The toughest person on the block, he never told you. The toughest person in my high school, he never told you. Everybody around you told you, don't mess with him. He's bad. But you would have thought he was a big teddy bear, because he doesn't have to tell you how bad he is.
How he presented, yeah.
Analogy here is, and I'm gonna make it better, because it just kind of came to me. But I think a confident person, on a scale of 1 to 10, a confident person is gonna say they're 7.
I thought that.
Right? They're gonna be aware that they're above average, but there's still room to grow. And an arrogant person is gonna say they're a 12.
Sure. That sounds fair. Yeah.
And I think that is a big difference. And this is something that I personally have struggled with for quite a while. Early in adulthood, I discovered that by most measurable metrics, I was more intelligent than people. So then I was just better than people and all the whatever. No, I'm good at taking tests. That's what it boils down to. I'm good at taking tests. Nonetheless, I think that it's really important for D types to maintain that balance between confidence and arrogance, because I think that arrogance is where we start to get in a lot of trouble, especially
Sure.
when we're talking about this top space and maintaining that control. A big thing that I yell as loud as I can from the mountains is, it's easy to want more, it's impossible to want less,
Mm.
right? So go into that scene, you can get lost in your space, whether you're a top or a bottom, but leave that scene wanting more, right?
Mhm. Don't break your
It,
toys; they won't come back.
you know, it's really hard to fix people. Like, it's really, really hard to fix people. And that actually kind of segues way back to something you talked about. Like, I don't remember how you framed it, but how I perceived it was like, you can't find someone else to fill your needs. And that reminded me of a short writing that I wrote a while back. It's called "I'm a Dominant, Not a Doctor." My role in your life, my role in your life is to offer guidance, not fix you. Your issues with insecurity, jealousy, envy, quality of attention, etc. These are things that I cannot fix, nor is it my responsibility. There is nothing wrong with me trying to make you happy and comfortable, but there is something wrong with me trying to fill the voids inside of you. Um, and I think that a lot of times people in general, they go into relationships looking to have their needs met by another person. And that is going to lead, I don't even
A lot
want
to a lot of challenges, because who does that person, the other person, even know what your needs are? Have you articulated those needs, those desires, those wants? Because a lot of times, so many people I find, especially today, vet life has changed in the last, I'll say, 5 to 10 years, has changed dramatically from where it was um, 10 years ago. And it's sad where it is today in some ways, because it's, everybody thinks it's a hookup site or blah 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 blah. But the other part is that fantasy. So many people are living in a fantasy type headspace that you're seeing more and more of these fantasy things that are unrealistic, and then they ghost you, and then they're gone, and this and that. And that's something that, as a dom, that we need to be careful of, is that there's many people out there that in their heart they believe that they're capable of something. I'm capable of taking a good whipping, a good flogging, a good beating, a good whatever the might be. But reality is that I can't get past a 3 with them, a level of 1 to 10, because they're tapping out on me. I'm like, well, I read that one wrong. Holy shit. But I was smart enough, I believe, to bail, because I could see that what I had in front of me was a fantasy. It wasn't a reality. Spanking, I hear that one a lot. Boy, I really want someone that can spank me hard. I love a hard spanking. So we start, and I get into a warm up, and I get into, and they're all, the first thing I do is like, you spank hard. Well, you just told me for the last, I don't know how many days, that you've been craving a hard spanking, that you love hard spankings, that this is what you desire, this is what you need. And now I'm just starting to give you that. And you're complaining? So, like, what were you judging it on? And so this is what's important, that it's important for us to go, okay, what experience do you have? What have you experienced? How long is the longest scene you've done, or this or that or something? But people still lie. People still mislead because they want to play with you. You're that bit, this person that is really good at this stuff. I want to play with you. And it's just like, that's where the ego has to be put away. It has to go aside, and the arrogance, the ego, that has to go. So I need to go, no. This is not a good thing. I need to be smarter here and walk away from this. And it's hard to do sometimes, because we want to see, we want to play, we want to, we want that adrenaline. We love that adrenaline rush, and so it's challenging. And it's about reading. It's about reading people. I think it was last year. or a year and a half ago there at Leather Rain. It's an event in Seattle that happens yearly. Great event, really, really good event. This year's a hotel takeover. So I'm giving Leather Rain a big shout out here. They're doing a hotel takeover this year. Well, a year or two ago, I forget which it was, one of my good friends there, Big Bad John, he's a skilled whip person, but someone who does gentle, soft, caressing whipping. I'm multifaceted, that I do everything from top to bottom, and I like going hard. We ended up doing a scene where the two of us worked on this lovely young lady, and I was working on her front, he was working on her back. After about 15 or so minutes, we switched sides. I'm like, well, there's nothing here. Did you even touch her? Like, what were you doing? I'm joking with him. He's like, what the fuck did you do to her? Oh my God, there's marks everywhere on her. So that was this scene that happened. And at the end, near the end, she was still craving more. And she had like this look in her eye that was, I'm good. I would love to have more. Get up against the wall, hands up against the wall. And I just went to town on her, just a boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, and just gave her exactly what she wanted. It was great. We had a great scene. Then next morning, she shows up with earrings that were the crackers from my whips. Very, very cool. Later that day on Sunday, somebody came up to John, a lady who saw the scene, and she goes, I watched you guys yesterday, and I have a question. And he's like, okay, so were you actually whipping her and doing a scene? And was that other guy, me, was he doing a performance? Scene, performance, soft, aggressive, showy. I'm very performance orientated. I'm up, down, sideways, all over the place. Like I'm very capable of moving and whipping easily and hard or soft. So she saw it as a performance on one side and a scene on the other side. And then he shared that with me later. And that was hard to answer. It was hard to answer that question a little bit, because as much as, yes, it was a bit of a performance. Yes, we've got a crowd watching. I'm going to be a little bit more rambunctious and flamboyant. Yeah, that's my nature and I'm good, but I'm able to still hit my target when I'm doing that. But I'm still doing a scene. I'm still getting inside her head. I'm still taking her on a ride. John took her on a ride, a different ride. And so, yeah, it was an interesting perception of what someone saw in this scene and how they perceived it.
It's crazy because I was already thinking like soft and hard. It's like hot and cold. Like it was like two sides to the bread, you know?
And then the other side was boiling.
Yeah. Very interesting. So my next question would be, in your opinion, you know, obviously all these questions are just your opinion, your experience. They're not necessarily correct or incorrect. What are some common signs or indicators that you're experiencing dom space, and how does it influence their decision making and interpersonal reactions?
You went from me to they. I think that's what I heard.
So
let's do one at a time.
The question was framed in third person, but it was should have been framed more for you, right? So how does it influence your decision making and interpersonal interactions?
So I got lost now. Could you repeat the question?
What are some common signs or indicators that you are experiencing dom space, and how does it influence your decision making? Let's just keep it there.
Yeah, there. I like simple things. I do. I'm a very black and white person. What are some signs? I guess one of the biggest ones is that I'm going too fast. And I know that might be hard to understand a little bit, but again, I'm flogging, I'm spanking, I like hand contact, I like human contact, and with my whips as well. And usually one of the signs that comes up first is that I'm pushing my partner too fast. And usually that means that I'm higher than they are. And I don't want that. I need us to either be equal or I want them to be higher. And because I need to be in control, right? I need to be in control of what's happening. So generally speaking, what I see is them struggling to keep up with my pace, them struggling to handle the intensity that's happening. I'm edging on arrogance and confidence here. I honestly believe that I have not been able to fully unload in a scene without second guessing and slowing down. I have always had more to give, wanted to give more, and that hasn't been satisfied yet. And I'm hoping one day that I can meet someone that the two of us can go there together. And that's something I say to my partner always, that we're a team. We do everything together. We're a team. I'll come back to that. But signs that I'm floating, generally speaking, is that it's how my partner's reacting to what I'm doing. And if they're not keeping pace with me, I'm obviously going too fast. If I'm going too fast, that means I'm getting high. If I'm getting high, I'm not in control of, I'm not as in good a control as I should be of managing their ability to keep up with me. And that's probably the biggest one that I find.
Oh, I think that's a really good perspective of it. I mean, it really is that if they can't keep up with you, then you're probably not in control of the scene anymore.
And part of it too is that I'm not, what I'm doing then is I'm not interacting hands-on then with them like I should be, to help them to process where they're at, to help them feel good about where they're at. And again, it can be the simplest thing as leaning against them, whispering in their ear, "You're beautiful. You're amazing. I love the sounds that you're making. My dick is hard right," it depends on who it is. "My dick is hard right now because of the sounds that you're making." And you don't have to yell these things out. You don't have to, be super creative, but be honest, be authentic. If you're blowing smoke up someone's ass, they're going to see it and they're going to feel it and they're not going to connect. And the moment that they don't connect with you, you're not having a scene anymore. It's just a hitting and whacking. I don't want to hit and whack. I want to engage with the people that I'm with. I want to have them on that same high, that we float together, that we both get high. We both feel energized at the end, that I was able to give it all. I was able to take it all. Oh my God, that was so intense. Then go fuck, Can't forget that.
Right? Sexual sadist.
And this is what I love about the States, because in Canada here, most of the events are no sex, like no SOP. There's no sex on premises. They're serving alcohol, which I hate. That's a pet peeve. And we can't have sex on site. And so when I come to the States and you're allowed to, it's like, yeah, all right, this is great. I mean, I was having sex at Kink Fest in the needle room, the blood play room. Everybody else is doing their needly thing and mellow and blah, 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 whatever. I know I might be offending some people. I hope not. I apologize. And here I'm fucking the shit out of my girl before I draw blood. And, I got her, I'm going to warm her up first with flogging and this, and I'll give her to orgasm a couple times. Okay, now the spike paddle's coming out. Now the flogger with the spikes in it is coming out. You want blood? Here we go. She's already floating. She's already high. It's just, and oh my God, we couldn't take pictures. That's the first time I've actually done a serious blood scene, and to watch the blood coming down and dripping down her legs, it's different. It's a different high.
It's beautiful.
Oh, I wish I could, yeah.
we
We were
were
very loud. Let's just say we were
around
very loud. We were very loud, and that wasn't the norm in there.
there. We like to. I'm a fan of blood, and I like to take just a white piece of printer paper and put it somewhere in the scene, right? And then afterwards, I'll laminate it. You know, and actually, one of them's my mouse pad for my laptop.
You're
Um,
sick. You're
I told
sick.
you I'm a monster. Told you. I know most people just think of the pretty rope, but
It's
there's
a
a
good
whole.
sick. It's a
Yeah, yeah, I
healthy
know.
sick. Yeah,
Yeah,
because you're not arrogant about it. You're not cocky about it. You're honest and you're open about
yeah. Well, and
it.
that's the thing is like I was actually talking about it a lot the last couple days. Is it's like just being authentic. Like I think most people that interact with me should have a fundamental fear of me, a healthy fear, because if they don't, then I probably would take things too far. It goes back to like they need to have that voice, right? And if
Yeah.
you don't have, mm, I'm just gonna go back to voice, then I'm the person to be like, okay, let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going. And it's just gonna, like you said, it's just gonna be a trajectory like that and crash. And I've recognized this in myself, and this is where I really like your analogy of the plateau, right? And where I'm more mindful and more in control of myself when it comes to that. Um, but nonetheless, like to say that you know, I don't get intoxicated in these moments would be a lie, right? To say that I don't have, I mean, I've gone as far as when I know that I'm going to be playing in a space where I'm more likely to lose control, specifically like primal. I actually set a timer on my phone.
What? Why?
Absolutely. To, as it's like, I think of the movie Inception, right? And in the movie Inception, they have this thing, they call it a kick. So essentially, they invade people's dreams, and the only way they can get out is a kick, and it's an abrupt shock to the nervous system that wakes them up, right? And in in my flavor of primal, I don't want to have control. I mean, I'm gonna take control, right? But I don't. I want to be able to explore more of that animalistic side of me, and that is why I personally have thought of, for the term best terminology, created kicks to bring me out of that headspace.
Then how are you going to find it if you keep taking yourself out of it? That's what I'm hearing.
You don't want to go too far. It goes back to like the whole thing of control, right? Even in a primal scene, if you're the primal top, you still have a level of responsibility of keeping your bottom safe, right? I
Okay.
think safety is a shared experience, right? But in those moments, I think that, at least for me, that it's just like you said, I have yet to find someone that I can fully let go with. And part of that is I have a fundamental fear of myself completely letting go as well, right? And this is where, when it comes to like any kind of primal play, where I am going to play with that loss of self control, that I need to be extra mindful of it, because I know that there's that evil inside of me or those darker desires. And I don't want them to surface when I am not in control of my own brain. And I don't know how to explain it, but in those primal moments with the right person, I'm not Dustin. I'm not
Yeah.
Dustin at all, and I don't want to be, right?
Well, and this, for example, why I don't use my vanilla name, Brian, I'll share it, in the BDSM world. When I'm at a munch or I'm at a meeting or I'm at an event or a dungeon, I'm Dragon. I'm Sir Dragon. I'm Dragon. I'm not your Sir. Blah blah blah. Let's not get down that path. But I'm Dragon Z or Z. That's who I am. I'm in this realm, in this zone. That's where I want to be. I have learned, remember I made the analogy, I shared there about the fighting and how when I knock people out, I don't remember everything. This has happened to me in a couple other situations in my private life. In grade 1, I had a guy bothering me about my first name. My first name is actually Miroslav, a very European name or Russian name. My parents are Croatian. And this guy kept bugging me about my name. Well, finally, that primal shit came out and I destroyed him. I just fucking beat the shit out of him and I don't remember a thing. And next thing you know, my parents are in school and we're dealing with this. We changed my name from Miroslav Brian Zeros to Brian to help not have shit happen. There's been a couple of instances where I have reacted very quickly and spontaneously without thinking, where I could have hurt somebody, but I didn't at the last second because I realized something inside me went fight or flight. This person is not here to cause, I don't know how to say it. This person's not here to kill you. Let's just put it like that. That's kind of harsh, but this person's not here to cause you extreme harm. They pissed you off. They've triggered me, but they haven't done that final thing. I had a guy in a bar once that was upset with me from the afternoon that I had used his plate to put my spare stuff on after I was eating, and I didn't realize he wasn't finished with his plate. Well, that night in the bar, I guess he didn't let it go. And he saw me sitting down at a table. So he calmly walks over. I see him walk over. He's looking at me, down at me, takes his beer and pours it into my vodka. The last thing I know is I'm talking to the doorman because they were pulling me off of him. Like, I don't remember a thing because I lost it. This has happened a couple times. So I'm very aware that my body will react that way in a fight or flight situation. But there's also that little mechanism in there that goes, this person isn't causing you harm. Don't hit them. They're not doing this. Don't follow through completely. And there was some other situations that happened where I reacted quickly. And so this is where and I've been in a few situations where my partners have been, excuse the expression, ladies, emotionally unstable and trying to draw me into a fight, an emotional, not physical fight, but verbal fight, right? And I'm like, sorry, nope, not getting into this because it ain't going to end well. When you calm down, when you relax, which they don't want to hear, then we'll have a conversation. But right now, you're emotionally charged. They hate hearing that, but I'm not going to engage. And I pull myself away and say, when you're calmed down, we'll have a conversation. We'll deal with this. But you also said voice. I've always said that my partners have a voice, and I want to hear that voice at all times. I only ask one caveat. One, that's it. Can we do it respectfully? Mm-hmm. I don't care what you say or how you say it or what it is. Let's do it respectfully. And I got chastised on that by some people. And I'm like, really? All I'm asking for is that we have a human conversation, that you're putting limits down. You're telling me I have to do this. I said, all I'm asking is for some common decency. Yeah. Don't come at me like a raging bull. Yep. If you want to talk about something, do it respectfully. I will listen every day of the week. I will listen. But if you're coming at me like a raging bull, I'm sorry. I'm either not going to listen or I'm going to fight back. And I don't want to fight. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to fight. And so, anyway, back to the questions.
Yeah, well, it kind of leads us into the next question.
Oh, good. See, I do that somehow. That's my energy.
What are some common misconceptions or stereotypes about Dom space, and how can we address them?
Stereotypes about Dom space. It's always good to repeat stuff, then the people know you're listening. Read that one of Bob's books too. Say the question again. I just fucking lost it. I get What was that question again?
Yeah. So, what are some common misconceptions or stereotypes about dom space, and how can we address them?
Dom space. I don't know if there's. I don't hear it a lot. I don't think, but I think what part of it is that DOMs are not seen on equal footing or in the same way as submissives are, and I use that S word very broadly, okay? Everybody on the left side of the slash, that we can't have the same feelings, that we can't have the same highs, that we can't have the same, no, I don't want to do the scene. It's almost like we're this other animal and we're just a provider. We're just someone, a means to get something from. And well, I don't care about your dom high. I don't care about that. I just want what I want here. And I think there's a disconnect. I think there's a disconnect there that dominants are on the same level with S types of having highs and having to manage that high and having drops. We all have drops. I get con drop. I get fucking dom drop. Oh yeah, but it's how we manage it. But I feel that the general misconception is that we should be not oblivious, but that doesn't happen to us. We're above that. We're not. We're human. Sorry, I live and breathe just like you do. I have feelings. I have emotions. I don't show them all the time, but they're there, and we have the same issues that we have to deal with the same. Misconceptions. That.
I think that's a really.
Sorry.
I was gonna say that's a huge one. Is that doms are human too. We get intoxicated. We make mistakes. We have drop, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on for this discussion. I mean, how many discussions are there about subspace? I don't know if I've actually ever seen a discussion specific to dom space.
And dom care, is there aftercare for doms? Well, yeah, we all need something. But most doms don't know what they need, I believe. There's maybe one for you. I don't think a lot of doms know what they need. And if you don't know what you need, how are you going to get that? How are you going to get it then? How are you going to get that? Fuck, what's the word I'm looking for? How are you going to get that relief of being able to process and being able to move on and to acknowledge, what you've experienced and that it's okay what you experience and that it's normal. That's the thing too, is we need to understand that having drop, it doesn't matter who's having it, it's a normal outcome. It's a hangover, and we all get hangovers. Everybody deals with it differently. Everybody handles it differently. But just because I handle it differently doesn't mean I don't have it. I'm not impervious. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know, whatever. I'm not a big word guy.
No, I mean, I think you hit some of the biggest ones out there. Is that, and like another one is, consent. Consent's a two-way street. My consent matters as well. Right. And like even going back, you talked about where you can stop a scene, right? And that's another misconception that somehow you're not dom enough or master enough if you stop a scene. No, actually, in my opinion, that's kind of a good characteristic of a master or dominant when they recognize that they should stop a scene, and more so have the fortitude to actually stop the scene. Right.
Have the strength to do that. It's almost like the dominants don't have a right to the same things that submissives experience, let's just say. And it's like, no, we get these rights too.
So I'm going to kind of steal a little bit from Ash and the Consent Academy. And I think what this boils down to is just like how she framed consent. For most of society, consent is gendered. And I think the same thing is happening inside of dominance and submission. And to some level, there's a lot of gender association with it, which we know is simply not true, right? But if you are a man dominant, there's somehow just less consideration than if you were a female submissive, at least in this analogy, being specific to gender. And as we move forward as a society and specifically as a community, and as we dissolve some of the constructs of gender, we need to remove gender from the considerations of humans as a whole, right? And if we're considering and keeping submissive safe, then to have a safe community, we need to be considerate and keep our dominant safe as well. It's a two-way street.
So, for example, here's my partner who 2 years ago had no experience within the BDSM lifestyle, none, like none. She found that life, and 2 weeks later, a week and a half later, I found her, and we started as friends with benefits because I was in a DS dynamic that was starting. 5 months later, it imploded and wasn't authentic. But anyway, we started as, for example, just real quick, as friends with benefit. We moved then a little while later into an exploring phase. And I expressed this. I said, I want to move this to another level because we're getting to know each other better and things are going really well. Let's go to a level of exploring your kinks, my kinks, and things you haven't done before that you'd like to do. And then we went from that, we moved up to DS, and we let's say grew in that dynamic. And then it's gone now to the level where I have her in consideration to be in my collar because the communication that we have, the amount of respect that we have for each other is fabulous. It's just to find this in somebody that is so new to the community. I'm very lucky to find this. But the big thing is too, what I want to share here is that if not every week, regularly, I tell her and share with her when the collar goes on. So we do a ceremony, a little mini ceremony every time it goes on, it comes off. I take it, put it on, I take it off. Is that we are a team. We look out for each other, we care for each other, we support each other, but we call each other out on our bullshit. There's no sugarcoating shit here. We do it respectfully, we do it in kind, but we are a team and we need to work together and we need to support each other and take care of each other as a team. And I think a lot of people kind of miss out on some of that. They forget, and they're individualistic of sorts, and they're only a team at times, not all the time. And that's just me talking off the cuff here. I don't have any scientific data or proof to prove this or studies.
See, I made a really bold statement with the goddess Indigo the other day. I don't prescribe to the team. You're not on my team. I don't even want to partner. You can be my person. It's really about authority for me. You're not on my team. You can play on the team, but I own the team. I'm the coach. You're going to go into the position that I want. And if you don't want to be in that position, then don't play on my team. It's really just that simple.
That's communication. That's clear, clean. This is what I have to offer. You have a choice now. You have a choice. This or nothing. It's pretty simple. and if you don't
dry, I'm at this point, I'm pretty clear on what I want and what I don't want. And authority is my sexuality, period. I like submissive feminine people, and there you go. But notice how I framed that. Submissive is what matters mostly to me. I do not prescribe to any egalitarian constructs that I can think of. Like I very much, like I said, this is my team. You can play on it, but that's about it. But anyways,
it's kind of, think of this like in a master-slave dynamic. It's quite often referred to as the slave has a voice, but they don't have a vote.
Absolutely, and that was what Ghana said. And that's
You
exactly.
have a vote, you're able to share, you're able to voice, you're able to express, and it might change my perception of something a little bit. But
Yeah.
I've been put in this position, and I've asked for this position, and you've accepted me to be in this position, if we're in that dynamic, to take the lead, take the charge, and to make those decisions. So that's what I do. But you have a choice. Do you want to get into this? Because if you don't, then you have to tell me now. And I think this is where people are not holding themselves accountable for their decisions that they make. And they're just willy-nilly, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, let's try this. Oh, let's try that. And it's like, sorry, that's not my game, not my jam. And I want something more serious. And so, that's why the dynamic I have right now is solid. And I say this today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week, but today and the last 2 years have been great, and I'm looking forward to more.
Absolutely. So we are getting closer to that 2-hour time. It's crazy how fast this conversation has flown. But
and you were worried about content.
What's that?
You were worried about enough content.
I'm never worried about it. Like I said, when I started this, my goal was to have 1-hour conversations. And after the second episode, I realized that I had to cap them at 2-hour conversations.
So
because it just keeps going, right?
So exactly with our power exchange, my power exchange. So I run the power exchange group with my submissive and another friend of mine. Oh my God! I don't know. This is his vanilla name. Oh my God! I lost his name now. Carl. Carl. Anyway, we started with like the socializing, and then an hour and a half, and then we'll cut it off, and then we have the room till 10 o'clock, and so we're there from 6 till 10 basically, and we've had days where the conversation of the topic has gone 2.5 hours and almost 3. And I was like, holy shit. But we've never been less than an hour and a half. Never. Because there's always stuff that people want to share. And then half the people still stick around to socialize and still talk about stuff in a more freer atmosphere of sorts. And so it's a great, we do it once a month, the fourth Wednesday of every month. We have a private room that we're able to use that can hold up to 25 people, maybe 28, and we're all at one big long table, and it's just great that we're able to have discussions about topics and help people to learn more about what's out there, and hopefully help them to avoid a lot of the missteps and the pitfalls and downfalls that are so common right now.
Absolutely. All right, so the last question I got for you, what are some of your personal strategies that help you recognize and mitigate the negative effects of Dom High?
Dan, why do you ask the scientific questions?
I'm scientific.
How am I mitigating? What am I doing to mitigate the high?
Yep. What kind of strategies do you imply?
So if I'm applying strategies, that means I'm thinking about this beforehand, right? Per se, right? I basically don't do that. I'm just going to throw it at you. I don't do that. I am instinctual. I am amazed. I am fortunate that I have the ability to be extremely intuitive and accurately, of sorts, able to handle situations on the fly, like literally on the fly, and deal with the pros or the cons. And again, that's something you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. And I believe that's a strength that I have, that I think that, for example, when you put strategies into place or you put plans into place, well, then you want things to go down a certain avenue. I don't have an avenue that I go down other than I'm scening with this person and I'm trying to elicit sounds and suffering and enjoyment for what we're doing. I hate long, extended negotiations because it gets too complex. Then it gets too crazy. It gets too overwhelming. There's too much shit to remember. I can't remember all that shit. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call it shit, but all that information is just overload. This is why I try to keep things really simple so that I just stay within these lines and I can do that. I find I've learned to recognize, for example, those that are in the autistic and or Asperger's type frame, if I'm saying this correctly, the frame network of that, they have a very structured viewpoint when they play, when they scene. And the moment that scene steps out, it steps out of the realm of what they're familiar with, they're stuck. And they will sit there and spin. And I've talked to a few friends of mine, I'm not going to out them here, but I've talked to a few very close friends of mine that they know their symptoms, they know they're this, and that, and they can't function. As soon as they go outside the lines, and this is why I don't plan things. A lot of times I'll say, I'll put out 10 toys that I may use. Sometimes I use 2. Sometimes I use all 10. I don't know what I'm going to use until I start. And even then, it's not till I get to the end that I went, oh, I only used 3 of those things. I got what I needed. They got what they needed. And I feel that if you put too much emphasis on expectations of a certain type, if those expectations don't get met, you have just done yourself an injustice now. You have just now hampered yourself from having a good scene because you set these expectations up here that I'm going to use these toys and I'm going to do this, she's going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then this is going to happen. And then when that doesn't happen, you've actually set yourself up for failure because now you're disappointed, if not upset, that you didn't get to where you wanted. So now you cannot appreciate the scene that you just did for what it was and the beauty of what it was because you had this expectation that was too high, too much. And so this is why I tell people when someone says, so what's your expectations of this? I said, little to none. They go, what? I said, I try to have the lowest amount of expectation that I can so that anything that happens, she revealed her tits. I got to play with her tits. Great. Oh my God. I got to play with her tits. Yay. Holy cow. You know, I think what happens is we set expectations a little too high, and then when we don't make them, we get disheartened and disappointed, and we feel like we're a failure. We're not a good dom or something. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. We hurt ourselves by putting an expectation too high. Keep your expectations at the bare minimum. Just the bare minimum. You're doing a scene, and you know whatever the scene gives me, I'm going to be happy with. If you can't do that, you're gonna run into troubles. I got a runny nose.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that managing expectations is a big thing. In almost every podcast since I've heard it, I've said it. It's a quote by Chris Williamson from Modern Wisdom, and it says, "Unspoken expectations are hidden resentments."
Wow, that sounds pretty heavy.
Right.
I haven't even unfolded that, and I'm like, oh shit.
So, wow, what a conversation.
Are you happy? Have your expectations been met?
I didn't have expectations coming into this. Honestly, at 8:54, I wasn't even sure if you were going to show up.
I wasn't either. My password wasn't working.
No, honestly, this has been just a wonderful conversation. Very enlightening for myself personally. I definitely took quite a few notes, and I have some things to, as you put, unfold, right, and unpack and kind of reflect on. Um, so I do appreciate your thoughts and your opinions and your time and offering them to us. Um, with that said, do you have any closing statements or thoughts or ideas that you'd like to get out there?
I'm happy that I can be here to share the knowledge I have. It's not perfect. It's not God. It's not, in stone. These are my experiences. These are my feelings. These are my thoughts. And having you reach out to me to ask me to be a part of your podcast scared me a little bit. It made me vulnerable, and because I've never done one. So I'm a virgin. I was. You broke my virginity. Do you feel good now?
I mean, I'm gonna go brag to Dr. Bob and the goddess about it, you know?
There you go. There you go. I broke his podcast virginity. You can't, yeah, Dr. Bob, that's a dinner thing. That's a dinner conversation. That's not the same. This is just you and me. You and I. You and I. And no, there was some nervousness. There was some trepidation. That's a big word. I don't like using those words. It felt humbling that you reached out and felt that I had good information, or hopefully potentially good information to share. And I'm happy that I can be here to share that, because I very much enjoy sharing the knowledge and skills and experiences that I have, especially when it comes to whips and floggers and scening. That is something that is true to my heart, is impact play. And whenever I can help people to experience things better, and I've actually helped a few people relive a whip scene that they struggled. They had a bad whip scene, and I've had people come to me and say, "I can see what you can do. Can you?" I want to feel the whip, and I want to be able to enjoy it. And for me to be able then to take that person and take them through a scene and have them feel good about the whip and have positive feelings, and relive that they're not broken, that they can enjoy the whip. It was just somebody maybe went a little too hard, a little too fast. It empowers me to want to continue to share and to be there, and to help in any way that I can.
Well, from my perspective, and I think from most of the audience, I think you did very well. Um, there was a great response from the audience, and like I said,
There was no
I personally,
questions. I didn't hear any questions.
there wasn't a lot of questions, but there was a lot of agreements and so on and so forth. I mean, um, yeah, no, I think you did very well. So
Thank you.
now your cherry's popped. It's time to be a podcast slut. So you just run around.
I consider myself and my partner to be ethical sluts.
There you go. There you go.
Safe sluts, but we are sluts. Thank you for allowing me to be.
Do you have any events that you'd like to promote, or any shameless plugs, so to say?
There's a couple of events that are coming up in Seattle. Those are more true to my heart because they are more in line with my leather and or in line with the whips and whatnot. There's a facility called Erebora Falls. It's a house on about, I don't know, it's about 5 acres. They've got a football size grass field outside their house. And they're holding events all summer in Seattle area, just outside of Seattle. And they also have a bed and breakfast, I think that's what they call it, a dungeon bedroom suite in the basement that you can rent. Oh my God, it's fucking fabulous. It's beautiful. And a little pricey being a Canadian because it's 40% fucking exchange. Excuse my language. It hurts. It hurts. But they've got a couple of whip events coming up in June and July and August, and I'm going to do my best for my partner and I to get down there. And I have a new motorbike that will make the ride a lot more pleasurable and enjoyable. And so we're looking forward to coming down to the events down there. But the big one is Leather Rain. I want to give a plug to the guys and girls, the ladies that run, and for, I don't know, 10, 15, 12 years, whatever they've been running now, I don't know how many years. It's a very, very good event in the Northwest here. And I highly recommend this. Like I said, this year's the hotel takeover. So it's going to be a little extra special.
And I went ahead and shared Leather Rain's website with the audience.
It's in November.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Oh, my camera lost focus, telling me it's time to go to sleep.
You're fading. There. You're fading.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Very much appreciate this.
Absolutely. So, I think I've said my appreciation to you, but I'll say it again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your experience, and thank you for your vulnerability. And thank you for admitting to that. I don't think a lot of times M types or D types admit to being vulnerable, especially in something as so simple as a public discussion, but it does open you up to vulnerability. A lot of
it wasn't in my strategy tonight. So just so you know, that was just by instinct. It just came out.
Well, I hope everybody has a great night. Until next time. See you next week.
Peace out.